Welcome to the DBA program of the Alfred Nobel Open University.
Welcome to the session on how to write a DBA thesis. We designed this session to help you in devising and undertaking your thesis for your DBA studies, and we hope you will find this a practical, easy to follow guide in your research. I have chosen a Benjamin Franklin quotation to motivate your studies. He said, "Investment in knowledge always pays the best interest," and we hope that you will find your studies really paying you interest throughout your work following your DBA research. Let me first tell you how we advise you to follow the DBA research, how to plan your studies, and how to undertake the research, which will be the basis of your DBA thesis. The circle shows the different stages of the DBA program. We encourage you to start with literature review, literature research, and observation. What do I mean by observation? Observation means that you consciously observe, consciously follow what you are doing in your work, and you select a segment in your work which is appropriate for study, for research, for a more close investigation and analysis in your DBA thesis. Observation may simply mean observing your current area of work. It may mean observation of other companies' work, or it simply may mean following the current issues, the current affairs in the world, and identifying an area in it which is of interest to you and which will be the focus of your studies. Literature review is essential. Certainly you have significant knowledge and significant practice of the field that you have chosen for your studies. However, to base it on relevant literature, to be aware of what other academic people or business people have already done in this field is essential to provide a really thorough and academic work at the end of your studies. Certainly we will be able to help you with literature review, recommending you certain journals, books, academic websites, for example, to guide you to focus on the most important and most relevant areas of this field. Literature review will also be useful in referencing your work. Therefore, we encourage you to make notes while you are reading and while you are collecting the basis of your work, of your research, which will be then helpful in establishing the bibliography of your work. Following the identification of the area that you would like to research, you will have to clarify what exactly is the problem that you would like to research. It's quite difficult to set the borderline between a wide enough and not too narrow area that you will research, and this actually will be summarized in your research question and hypothesis. Clarifying the problem means that you identify an area of the study, an area of the field where you are working in or that you would like to research, which has not been researched by anybody else in that field beforehand. This might seem difficult for the first sight, but if you think about how many different studies have already been undertaken in that field in different areas of the world, in different geographical locations, maybe in different areas of that specific field of science, then you will be able to apply it to a different geographical location, to a different branch of that science, to a different company, for example. Therefore, it's interesting and it's advisable to follow different geographical locations and to focus on one specific area in the end which is of interest to you and which has not been fully investigated or analyzed by anybody else beforehand. Again, we will be able to help you with different resources, statistical data, research undertakings that have already been done in this field, and then we will be able to help you to focus on one specific research question that you would like to focus on in your research. A research question, going on to the next stage, is always followed by a hypothesis. Hypothesis means that you can imagine the answer to a research question. Certainly this doesn't have to be valid, this doesn't have to be true at the beginning of your research, but you must be able to see what could be a relevant answer to that question. This will guide you towards data collection, towards relevant research participants, etc. In lieu of proper hypothesis, it will be difficult to find specific answers to your questions, specific resources for your research. Therefore, it's important to widen or narrow your research question as long as you are able to find a possible hypothesis, a possible answer to that question. Referring back to the literature review, we have to focus on the terms and models that you will use in your research. It means that you must be aware of the prior discourses, of the prior definitions, traditional terms and models, and then modern terms and models as well, which have already been used in that specific field. Basing your research on prior data, on prior undertakings, will make it more academic, will make it more professional, and then you will be able to prove that what you are doing is based on prior knowledge, so to say, of that science, and you will be able to identify what your contribution is to this specific field. Defining and specifying the terms and models relevant to your research will also be part of your thesis. Ideally, you should devote one or two pages of your work to clarifying and specifying which term is meant in what way in your research. Following the clarification of the theoretical background, you may focus on the research plan. A research plan will essentially involve all the participants that you would like to involve in your research. It will also mean that you clarify what methods, interviews, questionnaires, literature, studies, secondary data, etc. you will use in your research. Let me now refer to one of our courses, a research methodology, which will give you a detailed insight and practical guidance as well on how to conduct research. In that module, we will deal in details with the different methods of research, with the different approaches, strategies, challenges, and solutions to undertake a professional research for your study. The research plan will also include a timescale for your research. This is not an academic requirement. We encourage you to set up a timescale. You may wish to call it a Gantt chart for your study, to be able to foresee the timely and resource-based requirements as well for your research, and you will be able to follow the course of it, and you will be able to see the results progressively. Certainly, it's easier to make modifications and to make developments to your research plan while you are undertaking it and while you are facing more and more results, perhaps challenges, perhaps issues in your research. Following the research plan, you will start collecting the data, and then later on you will analyze this data. Data collection means collecting primary data and secondary data. Let me start by clarifying the secondary data. Secondary data means that you read, you contact companies, for example, and perhaps you request company documentation, corporate strategies, for example, marketing strategies, financial strategies, financial statements, for example, or you simply read published statements, published documentation of different companies online. Secondary data also involves statistics, which have been published by different statistical agencies throughout the world. You may wish to contact your local statistical office or national statistical office. And again, we are able to help you with identifying the best source of data for your research. Primary data collection, on the other hand, means that you are the person, you are the researcher who is collecting this data as a first-hand result. It means collecting questionnaire data, for example, making interviews with relevant people, doing observation, where you are taking notes and you are interpreting different phenomena in the business world. Data analysis will then mean that you summarize this data, you draw conclusions, you identify which are the data that you would like to use in your research, you filter irrelevant answers or data, for example, and you analyze what exactly is the trend, the change, the distribution that is relevant for your thesis. Conclusions will mean that you identify the message, the relevant results of your research, and by concluding certain aspects of the research, you will actually you will make inductions on what the specific data that you have collected may mean for other businessmen, may mean for the business procedures in the specific field that you have chosen, and what are the areas where you could be undertaking further research in the future, for example, or where other researchers could take further work and again advance the specific scientific field or business field that you have selected. Evaluation means that you identify whether you have done the research that you had planned to do. Evaluation means that you check again your research question. Have I answered it? Have I answered it in the way that I planned to answer it? Is my hypothesis proven or disproven? Have I contacted the participants in a way, in the ethical manner, in the scientific, in the academic professional manner that I planned to? Was there any discrepancy? Maybe have I caused any troubles with my research? We will again discuss all these factors in the research methodology module, which I highly recommend to undertake prior to starting any research. Evaluation also means that you validate all your data, you confirm what exactly is the field that you have been able to research and what are the fields that you were not able to analyze for whatever reason it has fallen beyond the scope of your research. This has been the overview of undertaking the DBA thesis program. Thank you for watching.